We are dialed into our Gold Coast studio where we have to welcome the one and only, the man who played more games of rugby league and Australian Premiership history than anyone else, but he'd never been in a game where a side blew a 26-0 lead. Let me tell you, Cameron Smith, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Vossy. Morning, Brandy. How are we going?
Morning, Cam. We're going good, mate. We're going very good.
Yeah.
Now, before we get onto the league, and there's plenty to talk about what happened in the NRL over the weekend, you're a golf fan. Did you watch any live golf over the weekend, and your thoughts?
I was able to watch day one, so the Friday. So the first round of the 3 rounds, and it was, I could not believe what I was watching on TV. It was incredible. Incredible. And we've all seen pictures of, the live tournaments happening overseas, wherever they've been held throughout the globe. But to have it on our shores and to see the response from Australians out there, it was just unbelievable. Watching Cameron Smith walk up the last with that crowd behind him, it was Tiger-esque, wasn't it?
Can they sustain it, Cameron? Because I said at the top of the program, and I'll warn our listeners I'm being a little crass, but I said it was a giant piss-up. I mean, that's sort of what it was, you know what I mean? It was more about the beers and that part of it, party, than the actual sporting event.
Yes.
Can that be sustained? Is that... Like, I don't want Brandy and I to come across as dinosaurs, but we love golf. We love the tradition and all of that. Does that make us dinosaurs, or is this the way forward for the sport?
Well, I just think that there's people that like the traditional way that golf is played, and there's people that like this new form of golf, which is live golf. It's a bit like when T20 cricket first emerged, right? It was like they're trying to target a new audience, and I think live golf has achieved that in a lot of ways where, they're trying to entice younger people to the sport. They're trying to entice more of a female audience as well. And I think that's happening with, like you see DJs there. Like there's DJs and there's party holes and there's drinking holes. Like they called it, wasn't it the watering hole? Was it the 12th, the par 3, where Koepka holed one out yesterday? He got an ace. So, and they just went absolutely mad. It was like the Phoenix Open where they throw all their cups and cans and bottles or whatever it was onto the hole. But I think that's what it's attracting. It's attracting a new audience, a younger, different audience to the sport, which I think can, there's many different views on live golf and whether it's right or wrong or whatnot. But I think for the sport in general to have new eyeballs, new faces at the golf, I think it's a great thing.
So the Phoenix Open is the USPGA's, I guess that's what they try and do. They try and attract a different audience, and that's a party tournament / party hole 17th where they do it all. But that's only one tournament out of about 25 that they run, whereas live, that's their mantra.
Yeah.
Well, it's party.
And I said, Cameron, at the start, golfers are boring. Like, with primarily they are. Well, they've got a job to do. It's not a sport that you can just be loose and funny and joking all the time.
That's right.
It's a very small number that can do that and play what they're doing under pressure. So you're asking a lot of the athlete to play up to this if you do it every week along that way and stay at the top of their game, Cam. Well, what if the league came to you and said, no, we've got to jazz things up. We want you playing up to the crowd, every shot at goal and all that sort of stuff, Cameron. Can you get Sin a little more?
I'll tell you
great
what,
for the crowd.
I probably would have felt a little bit uncomfortable doing that with every kick or with every game that I played, having to do that. But this is what these guys signed off for. I'll tell you what, if there was a breakaway competition and they paid me $100 million like Cameron Smith, a golfer, I probably would. I probably would layer up a little bit, you know. Although, throughout my career, I was never that type of player. But what did you guys think of the live tournament across the weekend?
Well, it's sensational
I
to a
found
degree,
it interesting.
isn't
it? And I didn't mind it. And it was good to see golfers like Brooks Koepka here in Australia.
Yes,
And we both agree that if they had a tournament here in Sydney next week, there'd be 100,000 people at it.
Yep.
Like it would sell out. It'd sell out the drop of a hat. I don't know if I could watch it week in, week out, but like it'd
yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
it'd get a bit too much. Anyway.
Yeah, interesting the point you made about money, that if you do get paid, the things you will do for boring. Yeah, so Cam Smith, day one, is up on the stage with a DJ doing a shoey.
That's right.
And the crowd's going nuts. Like, he's actually eating out of his palm of his hand. I remember the actor Mickey Rooney, and they were talking about the salaries for the actors in Batman and what they were paying. Mm-hmm. And it was an extraordinary amount of money. And Mickey Rooney said, if you pay me $10 million, you can put me in a brown suit and call me batshit. That's what, he doesn't mind. What you'll do for money, these golfers will let their hair down. Perhaps I've got it wrong. That, the boring will say, well, like Pat Perez. Like in the greatest scheme of things, Pat Perez is a tosser. Right, he's not your svelte athlete golfer, but he's part of the team's event. He's playing up perfectly. Yeah. He said, I used to believe in Santa Claus. Now I am Santa Claus and I got all this money. Like, he doesn't hide it. Like, that's what they want. They want this brash. No, but they do. They want that NBA type of swagger with their golfers. And if you're getting paid a lot of money, then suddenly you can become that.
And Vossy, if you look at someone like a Brooks Koepka, and when you watch him in that documentary, Full Swing, Brandy, and he talks about the pressures of being on the PGA Tour and how he really had some troubles, like mental troubles getting up for those games, and it really sort of rattled him. He looks super relaxed now, being able to go over to live and just and play that more relaxed style of golf. Like, they play for 3 days, and you can see, like, with all due respect to the players, they're all fantastic players, they're world class players, but you can see that they are more relaxed. Like, on that Friday, I was watching, Cameron Smith closely, and he's usually dead on where he's, placing all of his shots and all that sort of stuff. He barely hit a fairway. So, you know what I mean? Like,
because there's no focus on it. That no one cares.
Yeah,
one cares.
That's right.
Wins. They're going to win 5. If they do win, if they happen to have a good 3 days, they win $5 million.
That's right.
So that's relaxed. And if they run last, they still win hundreds of thousands. But there's no.
There's no consequence.
Focusing on how they play golf.
Yeah. So there's no world rankings. There's no issues of like missing
no pressure,
missing cuts and not getting invited back next year.
Lots of money and no pressure.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, the photo today is the beer, is the Fairtingham showering the tea like when Mick Stone sin bin Wally at Origin. Taylor Gooch, the winner of the tournament, is a line in the results pages. Like, seriously, that's the truth. He's just a line. You've got to go back 8 pages and say, oh, who won? Oh, it was Taylor Gooch.
Yeah.
Well, Taylor Gooch won.
But he produced 2 rounds of golf, which should have been spoken about.
10 under.
He had 262s, 10 under, back-to-back days.
Yeah.
Like, that's
incredible.
That's extraordinary. But no, it just sort of gets pushed aside. And,
we're talking about shoeies. We're talking about shoeies instead.
With your small sample, Cameron, we've been asking our listeners today over the last 2 hours, and our Queensland listeners have now tuned in. Score it out of 10. Like a quick appraisal. If you were to score it out of 10 as a sporting event / event.
Yes.
You can leave the sporting bit out. What does it get?
Oh, as an event,
what's the first tournament?
Oh, I reckon 8 or 9 out of 10. It was huge, huge.
The event was bigger than the sport itself. Now we get down to the nitty-gritty of some other stories. Before we get into the rugby league, Cameron, are you aware of the colourblind policy in rugby union? Are you across this story?
I have no idea.
That the Wallabies are going to have to wear white.
Sorry?
To suit the colourblind. Yes, that's it. Yeah. No, this is a true story. This is a true story. At the Rugby Union World Cup this year, this has almost been signed off on now.
Yes.
That to appease the colourblind audience, those that are colourblind watching, which is not a crippling disability, that the Wallabies and many teams will be wearing different colours. So the Wallabies will wear primarily white. Can you believe that this is where we're at?
Wow.
In trying to cater for everyone.
Wow.
The majority, and I'd be thinking the vast majority now, will not watch their team in their national colours. That, to me, seems amazing, Cameron. Have you? Yeah.
Is that woke?
Get your
is
head
that
around
what you'd label woke?
Is that woke, Vossy?
Well,
I don't know. What's woke?
Yeah,
I don't get involved in all that stuff.
It's wacky and it's weird.
That's going a bit too far, isn't it?
Way too far.
Going a bit too far. All right, next one for you. Throw another one at you. The RFL. Now we'll get in the sport of rugby league. In England, they announced over the weekend that at the end of the season, they're going to trial under the armpit tackling. And remember, rugby union's already talked about under the waist. But rugby league saying under the armpit. And this is to combat concussion. They're also going to take kickoffs from the 40-metre line in the attacking team's half. So they'll go over halfway an extra 10 metres and make the distance shorter. I don't understand the logic at all.
Wow.
Like, what are we doing here? What's going on?
You can...
You know, we've got the hip drop, tackle, crackdown, all these sorts of things. And these, I reckon, Brandy and I had a discussion off air. More concussions, anecdotally, we're saying. We don't have the stats in front of us. It's the defender, not the attacker, who gets concussed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's the guy going in to try and attempt a tackle. Yeah. Not the ball carrying. Like, sure, there's head clashes at times between a defender and an attacker, but it's more so the guy going in to make a tackle than it is the guy carrying the ball. I can understand to some degree, you know, the under the armpit approach. I understand where they're coming from with that, but going with the kickoff, Vossy, so you're kicking off only 40 metres out from the opposition side try line. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, shorten the distance.
Wow.
But how does that help? That means you don't have to run as far to smash the player bringing the ball back.
And three quarters of the grounds in England aren't 100 metres anyway. So
no, that's right. Little dead ball.
They're actually about 96 metres.
So anyway, this is where we're at. All these sort of stories. So that's all happening at 17 after 8. If you've got a question for the GOAT, Cameron Smith, get on the Edgewater Homes text 0457 736 736 on what you witnessed yesterday, Dolphins-Titans, Cameron. More than, in the big picture, the Dolphins, serious? Are we starting to talk contender? Like, are we starting to talk... Yeah, they've won in all manners this year. Something about them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know it's the Titans and they fell in a heap, but wow.
Yeah, no, well, super impressive. I think is that the second time that a team has come back from 26 points down since, or the only team since 98? I think that was the last time that happened. Yeah, so really impressive. At 26-0 down, 26-4 at halftime, you think, well, this is a win to the Titans, of course, but they just stopped playing football, whereas Dolphins come out second half, a completely different side to what they were in the first 40 minutes. But, geez, the one thing that's really impressed me about the Dolphins this season, and I made this comment last week, is that I'm not sure there's any other side in the comp, maybe Penrith, that they show the amount of belief that they have in their game plan. They show the amount of belief that they have in each other, and they go out and execute that every week. I think there may be one game this year when they played St. George and they were awful. But every week you get the same effort, you get the same consistency from them, and which I think that's been the most impressive thing. Like, there's a lot of talk and criticism around their squad and their makeup of their squad, and too old, too young, no marquee player. But the one thing that this squad has given us this year is very, very consistent efforts every week. And when they have been beaten, they've well, apart from that St. George game, like they've never ever really gone out and beaten themselves, if you know what I mean. They've pushed the opposition right to the 80th minute and made them beat them with some pretty special play. I think across the competition, like they've got one of the best completion rates in the comp. So that's a reflection of Wayne and his coaching staff and the style that he coaches and prepares his players, is that he wants a team that plays with plenty of effort, consistent effort for each other, and they go out and hold on to the footy and make their tackles. There's no real flashy game plan that he comes up with other than that.
Pretty impressive, aren't they, really? We spoke to Jared Wallace this morning, and he was good, but they've all been good. And they've played games too, Cam, without, they had injuries and suspensions. And they lost their halfback, which was a blow. Katoa was very good in the second half. Saw a bit of football from Katoa, who, still finding his feet as a 19-year-old. Let's just talk about something else that we've only recently chatted about just before you came on, and that's the Parramatta hooking situation. Dave Riccio joined us from the Telegraph this morning, and he said Brad Arthur's got a decision to make, whether he starts with Brendan Hands and goes with 4 forwards, or whether he keeps the 2 hookers and Josh Hodgson remains. What are your thoughts on Hodgson in particular over the weekend? I know they were beaten well by Brisbane, well in the first half, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, watching him early, I called a couple of their games early in the season, and he looked sharp, he looked fresh.
Good,
yeah, he did. But over the last couple of weeks, I guess, and he's just come back from illness too. Is that right? He missed last week. Was that through illness? Vossy, he missed a game.
Crook.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was.
Not injured.
So maybe like on the weekend, he certainly wasn't at his best, and maybe there was a little bit of hangover from that illness. But I think, and I heard some comments earlier about letting Reid Marnie go. When I heard he left the club and he was allowed to leave the club, I can't believe that they let him go. To be honest, I still. That's a captain. It's a future captain, huge
10-year player, wasn't he? He was going to be everything.
And with all due respect to Josh Hodgson, fantastic player, but to let Reid Marnie go, he's a look. If Harry Grant wasn't playing as well as he has over the last couple of years, Reid Marnie would probably be pulling on a maroon jersey.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So he's a state of origin sort of quality number 9, and to let him go was a huge blow for them. And you can see now, you know, the issues that they're having around that position. Like Josh, he's out there trying hard. He's got plenty of effort, but they're lacking a little bit of spark. So, yeah, it's been a big call for the Parramatta Eels.
By the way, they did try to keep him, but they put a value on him, and now with the benefit of hindsight, I think that value had to be a little higher.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they got outbid by the Bulldogs, and they had to realise key position, spine play, but future captain. Reid Marnie was going to captain the club, going to play for 10 years. And now they've got a 34-year-old replacing him stopgap. That's not good business. Cameron Smith here to take your calls and texts. Let me throw one at both of you. This one. Morning, fellas. This is from Josh of Kellyville. Interested to hear Cameron's opinion on where he sees Penrith sitting at the moment after the first 8 rounds and who is his grand final Quinella. So we'll throw the bulk of the question to you, Cameron, and then I'll put both of you on the spot. If you had to stop right now, who's playing the grand final after 8 rounds?
Ooh, I'd probably say Brisbane and the Rabbitohs. I don't want to. It's hard to leave Penrith out because I think at the end of this season they'll be there, but off the games we've seen, particularly over the last 3 weeks, I'd say Brisbane and the Rabbits.
My pick pre-season was South Penrith. And I'll stick with that. Even though the Broncos sit on top of the comp and are looking great, I won't change what I went with before the season got underway.
All right. And do you see, Cameron, can Penrith get back, just briefly to answer the question of our listener, Josh, can Penrith get to the level of the last 2 years or can't get there with the squad they have?
Well, I think they can. Watching them play, they're a very different side to what we've seen over the last 3. But I think that's a huge part of that is no Api Coruscant. And I know Viliami Kikau left as well. He's one of the best back rowers in the competition, and he gave them a lot of punch out there, a lot of physicality, the way he played. But I think they're still adjusting to their football now without Api Coruscant. What he offered in the middle and the way he was able to build momentum for players like Cleary and Luai and Isaiah Yeo to get their football on, I think that they don't have that same level of momentum through the middle of the field. So I think that's what they're still adjusting to at the moment.
This text feedback on Live Golf. We've been talking about that. This from the Canberra Cockatoo. Good to hear from you. G'day, VB and Cameron. I was at Live Golf in Adelaide this weekend. It was an absolute blast. It was as fun, if not more fun, than the 3 major championships I've been to overseas.
There
That's
you go.
Some decent feedback from the Canberra Cockatoo. I can't say I've been to any major golf tournament overseas, so it's good to hear from a listener who can now make a fair dinkum coal-face comparison.
The Rooster Man says we should have bought Wakefield out for Magic Round. They could have played the Tigers.
Oh, I thought at the top of the show I said today, give some love to the Tigers. I thought we were going to
Well, they'd be
cancel
playing.
out any
Well, they'd play Newcastle,
derogatory
wouldn't they?
text.
Newcastle have got the bye.
Yeah, the bye. Well, I think we're talking more 0 and 10 versus 0 and 7. Sort of like
I think it's more about
yeah.
Yeah.
It's about the 0. It's about the 0.
Gotcha.
A word on the Tigers yesterday. Brandy gave the story. Jake Trebojevic interviewed on Sunday night with Matty Johns on Fox League. Actually said, I've been cheering for the Tigers the last few weeks. You know, there's love
Really?
for them. It's almost
There you
like
go.
they've now, well, obviously not yesterday, but your heart bleeds for them. They've forgotten how to win, Cameron.
Yeah.
Forgotten how to win.
Well, they were in a position to win it yesterday, weren't they? And I think
absolutely.
I was watching that game. I think when they were up, what did they get up? What were they sitting? 16-12. 16-12?
16-12.
Was that the second time, only the second time this year that they were in front?
533 minutes since they last led in a match.
There you go.
533 minutes of game time since they last led in a game at any time, Cameron.
Yeah.
Not even a 2-0 early sort of scoreline.
Yeah.
533 minutes.
And, and you look at Manly, they were nowhere near the level that they were the previous week against Melbourne. But, you know, for the Tigers to be in it the way they were against Manly, who are they're a very good side, I've seen some big improvements from them yesterday compared to what we'd seen in the first sort of 6 weeks. So that's their goal. It should be their goal is just to keep improving on their week-to-week performances. They'll get one soon, you'd think.
Can I just say, yeah. Well, yeah.
Brandy's not too sure.
Penrith this Saturday night, Cameron?
Well,
Penrith
maybe
on
not
Saturday
Penrith,
night?
no.
No, okay. Well, I'll just get the draw out. Way you go, Brandy. You just pad for a while, and I'll find out when this win's coming.
Well, we mentioned Luke Brooks, and I thought Luke Brooks tried hard yesterday, but there was a moment towards the back end of the game where they ran the ball on the fifth, and the score, they were down by 6, but they still had a chance to get to Golden Point. And Papali'i made a bit of a break, and he flicked the ball back on the inside to Luke Brooks, who dropped it. And it was at chest height, the pass, maybe even a bit lower, but they're the sort of plays that you got to nail.
Yeah.
You can't, with the game on the line and a chance to get them back into it. And the Tigers yesterday, their attack inside the 20 has been a big problem for them. Games against Newcastle where Newcastle were down to 12 and 11 at one stage, back in the early stages of the year. They had so much ball. Yeah, the Titans, so much ball inside the 20. And yesterday they went with a runaround play.
They did.
How many runarounds do you reckon they did, Vossy? A dozen?
Oh, 15. Yeah.
15?
Between 10 and 15, I reckon. Yeah, more runarounds than I'd call in a season. Just about.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. More runarounds than you would add up from all the sides. Now, the runarounds
inside of 20. Yeah,
inside the 20. So, obviously, they think, well, we've got to get Appy, almost play him like a halfback. So, the way to do that, play him at dummy half, but get him to run around one of the forwards and then play.
Yeah.
The runaround didn't work.
No.
Like they had a whole lot of, different versions of the runaround play. And there was one play where they didn't give it back to Appy and hit a forward down the middle. And I thought they almost scored. I think it was off a Hengawi, got himself into the in-goal area off the runaround play. But really, is that what we've got to get down into the 20 and do a runaround?
Well, I'd be confident to say, fellas, that was direct influence of a Sheens, Marshall, Farah coach footy side, because that's the exact way that they played. If you can remember back when Benji was in the halves, Robbie Farah playing at 9, Tim Sheens coach, of course, they were the runaround kings. That's I remember playing against West Tigers in their years where they were very good and a very good attacking side. They would throw 1,000 runarounds or wraparounds at you a game. So that's direct.
Quickly.
Yeah. So but they don't have the same players and it's all a little bit different. Right. So they might have to come up with a different way.
Yeah, cue the sad music. Well, next time you go into a Tigers diatribe, Lieutenant Dan, you'll have the music handy, won't you? You just play the music. Thank you, Lieutenant. When we go into a Tigers breakdown of their play,
Vossy,
just make sure we're on cue.
just on Bevan French too. You know, Bevan French, in his 47 games that he played for the Eels, scored 35 tries.
35, so 65 for Wigan. 35 and 47 here. Wow.
Yeah.
That's some player, and best year still ahead of him. Still a young fella. He was set to come back to Newcastle and then did the backflip. Was going to come back to Newcastle this year. It didn't pan out.